Welcome to Thinner Peace and Menopause and Beyond. This is Dr. Deb Butler, Master Life and Weight Coach, and as always, your coach. Today is episode number 196, and it's a new year. And now I want you to hear about what it's like with life after working with Dr. Deb. Stay tuned. Hi, everybody. How are you today? Happy New Year. Boy, I have got something really special for you today for the new year. And one of my clients who I worked with about 18 months ago contacted me and said she would love to come on the podcast and share her experiences after working with me. And then I got the idea that it would really be great for you to hear from more of my clients who have finished working with me a while and are on their own and how they're doing, because I think it could help you too. So today you're going to hear from Gyata, who has a special place in my heart, and you're going to hear about her transformation. She'll tell you where she was. She'll tell you where she is, and she's going to tell you how transformational this work was and is. So enjoy this interview. Hi, Gyata. Welcome to my program. I'm so happy to have you back after 18 months.
I've been excited for weeks, Dr. Deb. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm so happy. And there's so much that we want to talk about today. And one of the things, like when I got your email and you asked if you thought that you would like to come back on and talk about your experience after working with me. And I'd never thought about that before. And then I thought, like, wow, what a beautiful thing to be able to be Dr. Deb free for 18 months and to continue using your own mind with the tools that I taught you to continue to transform your life. And not only that, strengthen your body more, take better care of your body, and to even put more good things out into the world. Tell me about that.
Oh my goodness, there's quite a few questions in there. First of all, when I was thinking about how long ago it was that I worked with you,
I
could not remember whether it was 3 years or 2 years.
Oh my gosh. Well, I know
because
it wasn't
3. So much has happened. It was 2 years ago, probably today, who knows, that we had a mini session. And what was the essence of your question?
Well, I think let's just start with, do you remember why you decided that you wanted to work with me and what was going on with you at the time? Maybe we can just start with where were you?
Yeah.
If you can remember.
Oh, I can remember crystal clear. I was 56 at the time, and I had been listening to your podcast for about 9 months. After, years of up and down, just 20 pounds. I kind of had the 20-pound limit for the most part. I was struggling because my body had changed with menopause. And I was listening to your podcast and it all made sense. And I was not doing it. And my weight was creeping up. And finally I decided I needed your help, that I realized I couldn't do it on my own. And I knew you'd be a good fit because everything you said made so much sense.
Okay. And so you decided to do a mini session with me, and we both decided that we would be a good fit with each other. And I think we were right. And so tell me, like, what I remember in the beginning. I remember so many different things. It's that when you first started with me, and I think when you first started, it was you went on a vacation in Hawaii.
Yes.
With your sister.
I was in Maui, yes.
You were in Maui, yeah.
With my husband and my sister.
Yeah. And you know what I remember about that, because this is part of why I wanted to work with you so much, is because of your commitment level. Because you knew that you were going on vacation, I think almost immediately after we started working together.
Yeah, I was on vacation my second session.
Yeah. And you were so committed that you wanted to do it even though you were on vacation, which I knew you were my girl. I just knew it. And that there was so much that you could learn from being on vacation.
Right out of the gate, it it wasn't really what I didn't know what to expect, I guess. But I remember the very first two sessions, I ended up eating to try and please my sister for some reason or another.
Uh-huh.
And whenever we'd work together and we'd come to something, it felt pretty obvious once we got to it, but it often took 40 or so minutes to get there. And that's why I couldn't do it on my own, is because these sort of deeper issues that were contributing to the way I was acting and treating myself, I didn't see.
Right. And the only reason that you didn't see it is because it's really hard when you're in emotion, strong emotions, to be able to see your own thinking clearly without believing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. Because a lot of the things that you told me, you believed was pretty accurate. Like, why wouldn't I eat when I'm with my sister? I don't want her to be upset.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, you just thought you were reporting the news to me about that.
Correct.
Correct. And that was sort of the beginning of our journey.
Yeah. And, pretty much every week something would get uncovered. We never knew what it was going to be. And then at the same time, you were introducing, different homework and different assignments and, different stages. After 6 weeks, I went to the no sugar, no flour, no alcohol. And then I think the final 6 weeks, we worked on developing my protocol. So there was an overall theme. I guess the first 6 weeks was actually the hunger scale, but the thing that stands out for me was, oh, really? I have to plan my joy eats?
Yeah, you weren't happy about that. You weren't, and I remember too, not only that, and this is probably something that a lot of people can relate to, is you didn't want a food journal after a couple times. Do you remember that? When you said,
Well,
I think it's really tedious.
yeah, but I also used to do this thing where I thought they had to be perfect.
Oh,
So,
talk about that.
so I would keep notes during the day, and then a couple days before I was going to meet with you, I'd go on my computer and write them all up, and then email them to you. And so it took an hour at least. And it's not that I change things; I just want them to look nice and clear, so you could follow it. And I was only sending 3 a week at that point or something. It wasn't so much that I didn't want you to see them, because I was really pretty much in let go with the process. But then later on, you said, you can just take a picture of the food journal and send it to me. And then it got so easy. I would just, you know, write it out during the day, dedicating one page per day, and take a picture and send them off. And it took 5 minutes.
Right, which is a part of the process of the work together is the thing of perfection, and it has to be right, and being able to just let things just be and be able to see what's going on. Yeah?
Yeah.
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 And the other thing that I remember quite clearly was the whole idea of socializing with food and alcohol and your thoughts about that. And I like just touching on all of this a little bit before you talk to us about where you are now and how you've gotten here.
Okay. So the question is how I.
So like in social situations, because that was a big deal to you.
Right.
And it's a big deal to a lot of people, that the idea that, oh, well, I socialize a lot, therefore I have a problem.
Right. In our mini session, the theme that came up is I thought that I overate at night because I was with my husband and we were eating together.
Oh
And
my gosh, I remember that.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And then as soon as I started looking at that, I realized that that wasn't the case. Even when he wasn't there, I was still overeating at night. Um, and sure, the social going out to dinner, I would pretty much always overeat. It was a habit. It was what I did. I thought it was okay. I thought it was part of it.
Thought the food was delicious too.
Yeah, yeah. And I thought it had to be finished. I still kind of think that. I was also drinking pretty regularly. It had become, something I'd have a drink probably 5 nights a week. And if we went out, sometimes more. And then I'd wake up in 3 a.m. wishing I hadn't. But it did feel like part of the fun. And then Yeah, and I have some friends that really love their food and drink. Well, everyone does. I mean,
But I remember this too. It's so funny as you start talking about this, how the sessions come back to me. Because I remember this about your friends and about how much they love to eat and drink and what you made it mean about you.
so I'll tell you a story. I was together with those friends and their daughter, who's also a friend. And at that point on my protocol, I was giving myself a drink a week. And so I went to visit and I said, I can only have, or I'm only going to have one drink this week. And after a little bit of razzing, like for the first night, it was accepted. It was not a big deal. So I chose to have my one drink at the restaurant that the daughter had picked because it was her favorite restaurant. And she was like, I'm so honored you picked my restaurant to have your drink. So it was just a nice moment. And that I am now used to not eating if I'm not hungry. But yeah, at the time I didn't have that awareness.
Right? That's what you were working on,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And even sometimes like I would eat beforehand for some reason and then arrive full and still eat and that just feels awful. It felt awful and
But you didn't know that at the time until we really started looking at it.
I mean I knew it felt awful. I guess
Not awful enough not to eat.
yeah, and I didn't have I won't say willpower because it's not really willpower. Maybe I didn't know that you can't, you don't have to eat. Maybe.
Well, I think that you believed that if you went out to eat and there was food on your plate and you paid money for it and you were having a good time or you were with people or whatever, I think your belief system was, of course I'm going to eat. It doesn't matter if you're hungry or not.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was.
I mean, I think that's pretty common. It's like, I don't have to be hungry to eat.
That's true. That's true. Since it's no longer my belief system, it is kind of hard to remember that I believe that.
I know. That's why I like just talking about it just a little bit is like, just kind of letting for us to remember and for our listeners to know that where you were is where a lot of them are, right? Where they believe that when they go out to eat, they have to eat and that it's part of the fun. And what will people think if they don't eat? And even I'm thinking about that, when you talked about like the first time that you decided that you were going to have one drink a week. And I just want to say for the people who are listening that when you talked about your protocol, that all a protocol is when I'm working with somebody is a way of eating that you decide you want to do that gives you the results that you want. And so at that time on your protocol, what you were deciding is that you wanted to have one drink a week. And that probably changed, within different times, depending on what was going on. But it's always a choice, right?
Oh, yeah. In fact, I mean, after we went through the stage of no alcohol, no sugar, no flour, and I was building my protocol, and then we finished the sessions, and I said, I don't want to start drinking again yet. I feel like I want to extend that. And I think I went for a full 3 months without a drink, which was a long time. And then that's when I eased back in, and that was after I'd finished working with you. And that's why I started slowly when I came back to it.
When you decided to decide when you wanted to have it and when you didn't, to introduce it back in.
Yes, that I said to myself, I'm just going to start with once a week.
And how did that work for you?
You know, I just remember the first time I went out to dinner and had more than one glass of wine, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, this feels awful." Just how sensitive the body becomes. So I think it was great. It was, even now sometimes I maybe start drinking more than I'd like to, which is a lot less than I used to. And it's easy to remember, wow, I went for 3 months and I had lots of great times and I didn't drink at all. This isn't something I need. I also mentioned in the letter I sent to you that I have this thought very strongly now because I still, I get home in the evening and I'm tired and I'm thinking, oh, it'd be nice to have a glass of wine while I cook because I don't feel so great. And then I say to myself, it never makes me feel better to drink. And it really doesn't. So when I drink now, I make sure that I'm feeling good and it's just for the pleasure and the fun, not because I think it's going to make a situation better.
I love that. And that what you just said was the work that we did that you continued, because that's why I think you feel free from food, is because when you're making a decision about eating something or not eating something, or drinking or not drinking something, it's coming from a place of I either want it or I don't want it.
Yeah.
Not from a
Yeah.
place like I can't have it. I can't have it. And then you want it. And then you're gripping and you're resisting and you're using all this willpower.
The same thing came up just last Friday. We have a local Christmas walk. The whole village comes out and they light the Christmas tree, and there's a soup kitchen in the church and cookies and the like. And I said to myself before I went, I'm going to have a Christmas cookie. That'll be fun. And I ended up having like 3 Christmas cookies, and I don't eat sugar anymore. So I had my 3 cookies, and one of them was good, and the other were kind of not so great. And then I started to feel that little obsession feeling. And then I passed a booth, and they were giving free cookies, and I had one more. And then about 15 or 20 minutes later, I started to feel lousy. That feeling in my stomach that's like, oh, physical feeling. And I was thirsty, and I didn't have water with me. And I decided, this Christmas season, I'm going to remind myself of that feeling. When there are Christmas cookies around and they remind me of my childhood and the like, that I'll just remember that feeling, that it doesn't make me feel good. It's not how I want to feel.
I find that fascinating because I think what a lot of people think is, oh, you do this program and then you never ever break your protocol again or overeat or eat something that you don't want. And if you do, maybe that means that it's not working. And I want you to talk about that a little bit because for me too, I mean, I still overeat, I still do things, but tell me
Mm-hmm.
what the difference is for you. Like when like you're saying, so I ate more than I wanted. So you didn't quite stick to what you wanted to do. You were mindful enough to feel how it actually felt physically without your mind getting in the game of telling yourself some terrible things about the cookies. You were just physically connected to your body.
Yeah. So once I felt that ugh feeling, I didn't eat anymore, even if I mean, I didn't want to. And I found myself some water eventually, and I didn't eat anything more that night. And I can remember, like in the past, going out to a restaurant and, maybe bringing home the pound cake they give as a dessert and being really full and coming home and eating that pound cake. And
Because why?
because it's that, I mean, I guess it's a storm. It's just like, I want it, it's here.
Yeah, because what I think is, and I don't know if this is this way for you, but for myself and I probably you too, is sometimes we believe that once we already have broken what we decided to do, we might as well just keep it up.
Yeah, there is that. And it also came to me kind of just punishing myself for overeating by eating more. That just came in. I will also say that when I was eating sugar and drinking more, I used to say, well, I get in shape for my drinking. The more you drink, the more you can drink, and and not feel awful. Or maybe I just was feeling awful all the time. I don't know. I think certainly when I was regularly eating sugar, if I had 3 cookies, I probably wouldn't have felt so awful.
Yeah, I don't know if you wouldn't felt it. I just don't think you were as connected to your body and as aware as you ended up being.
That could be.
Because I think the whole idea of taking flour and sugar out is actually to get more connected to your body about how it feels when it's not in it.
True.
Right. And so I think that once you get that awareness, which I know you did, then I think that at least where it sounds like where you are now is that you have that awareness that even if you overeat or do something, you can feel it physically in your body and you have that connection. So you actually have your body leading you the way, which is why you don't want to eat again.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's more,
Okay.
it's more like a
Let,
natural.
let's just go with that
Yeah.
because I want to move on to the question you were saying, what's different? And I think one of the things is, I used to believe that I had to have 3 meals a day no matter what.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. And snacks too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually 2 snacks in between. Um, but I definitely believed the three meals. And now, if I've eaten a late lunch for some reason and I'm not hungry at night, I don't eat. Or, I pay attention. Or maybe my husband will come home and neither of us are that hungry, but we're a little hungry, and we'll say, let's have appetizers for dinner tonight. And we pull out some beautiful appetizers and stop after that. Whereas before I thought, I needed a full meal no matter what. So there's that. But I did want to tell you what happened in June of this year because I'd been really, really following my protocol pretty much regularly. And then I went off to this event. It was a conference with my husband, and I ate a dessert for the first time, an unusual dessert. And then I started eating dessert every night. And I mean, actually, conferences, there's so many opportunities to eat sweet, carby treats. So I didn't completely go overboard, but I definitely started eating more. And lo and behold, I actually put on about 3 pounds over the next 3 weeks. I'm like, oh, because I really do like to stay around my ideal weight, plus or minus 2 pounds either way. And it wasn't coming off. And so I said to myself, I'm going to write food journals. And I still don't really like writing food journals, but I started. And I actually asked my friend if she'd be my accountability buddy. So every day I was to text her and say, I've written my food journal. And if I hadn't texted her, I'd get a text from her like 9 o'clock at night, food journal, question mark. And it was a playful way to just get back on track because that was the only time I ever, in the 18 months, that I ever kind of felt like, whoa, I'm maybe getting a little off track. I don't want this to continue. And now that also gives me confidence going into this Christmas season. I'm not worried at all, which is amazing
How
because
come? How come you're not worried at all?
I already had the experience with Christmas cookies. And
Can we just go? Can we just segue? I mean, just go back just a little bit because I remember when I was coaching you, and I guess that the Christmas season, maybe you were having, it must have been around Christmas because I remember you said, well, there's 3 weeks where I'm going to eat cookies because my sister makes, I think it's your sister that makes some kind of cookie.
my sister-in-law, yeah.
I mean, it's so funny how these things pop back in my memory about how you just stated to me, like, this is what's going to be happening.
That was our mini session because
Was
the
that our
mini
mini
session
session?
was before Christmas. Yeah. And then you couldn't take me till after Christmas.
Okay.
So, but the reason I called you, on that actual time was Christmas was coming up. And I knew if I didn't call you, I was going to gain weight. And I knew how hard it was to take it off at this stage in my life.
Oh my gosh. So part of the reason that you call, well, this is really good because this is probably going to be in December or at least January when this podcast comes out, that
Mhm.
there's a lot of people out there that would say, oh, I'm going to wait until after, or I'm going to wait out till after this, or, in other words, so I can do more damage before I talk to her.
Right.
And I love your thinking.
Yeah. In the past, I would have done that. And then I would have done my little fat flush 5-day protocol and lost the weight. But that wasn't working anymore. So I didn't want to have to spend 6 months getting off weight that I put on in 3 weeks.
Which is really the reason why you want to make this the last time because after menopause, the body's not the same. So, losing and gaining weight, like it's easy to gain weight, but not so easy to lose weight. So it's like if you make it the last time, you never have to worry about that.
Yes. But the real reason I want to make it the last time is it frees me up to do what I want to do, what I'm meant to do.
Oh my God, I got chills from that. So that goes into, well, wait, I want to say two more things if you don't mind talking about it just a little bit. First of all, what I hear you saying about when you've gone off protocol or overeaten or whatever, or you had your June experience, what I want to show people is it's not that these things don't happen. It's that you have the wherewithal to bring yourself back because of the tools that you have.
Yes. I do it generally right away. I overeat and I feel that yuckiness, and then I wait to eat until I'm hungry again.
Yeah, it's like such a beautiful thing. It's not like you don't ever, ever overeat or ever do anything. It's just that when you do, you know how to come back. That's what I'm hearing from you.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's, I want to say I do eat some sweets. I don't eat any sugar, so and that's my choice. It's just easier for me. But there's like Lily's chocolate. It's with erythritol, so I do eat some of that, but I still have to treat that with respect.
For sure. I think it's all the same thing.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, in terms of mindset and all of that, whatever you call your joy foods,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
But the beauty of what you're saying is how you have a protocol. And if you break it or you don't do it accordingly, you don't make it the end of the world. You just bring yourself back to your physical body and take care of yourself. That's how it sounds to me. And that you have that down.
yes. And another thing I learned from you was the importance of planning. And I maybe don't plan it as tightly as you encouraged me to do when we worked
Well,
together.
maybe a lot of people don't. And do you have to?
But I do, at the start of my day or the night before, I kind of think what my day is going to look like. And I often work over the lunch hour. So I plan ahead. And I actually, interestingly enough, do enjoy skipping breakfast and intermittent fasting like 3 or so days a week, which is something you suggested. And I didn't like it at the time. I thought this doesn't work for me for this reason.
Yeah, let me interject just real quick. There's a lot of things over the time when we were working that you didn't like.
Yeah.
So keep going, but let's just, it's like, hey, you don't have to like it, right?
That's right. That's right. Now, I remember the reason I said I didn't like it because I need to have fiber before I eat. And actually, my body does work well with some flax and other fibers before I eat. But that was my thought. Well, I can't intermittent fast because then I don't get my fiber. But it turns out that that was just a thought. I can get my fiber. I could take it before dinner, or I just figure it out.
That's exactly right. You just figure it out once you decide that you're going to do it. And you also find that it works really well for you, right?
Yes, it really does. It really does. It just makes me feel light, and I like the variety actually that I mean, today I ate because I'm playing tennis after we talk. So I ate just before this call, and I know that I'll feel perfect on the tennis court.
Right. It sounds to me, Gyata, like you are connected to your body. Like you have that connection that children have. You've got that back. That's how it sounds. And that's what my intention of my work is to do that.
Now I've got chills. I'm very happy. I'm so happy that this piece of the puzzle is solved. I can get on with other things and not be worried about it. Even though I have to pay constant attention, it's not a worry, it's just living.
Yeah, but even though you have to pay constant attention, sounds like, well, anything that's important to you, you do have to pay constant attention to. That's not like a big deal. That's just what one does. I mean, it's like if you have whatever it is that you love and that you want to take care of, you put constant attention into it. So I'm so happy that you put constant attention into you.
And I do the same with my workouts now and my body, and I'm playing tennis again and I'm competing again. And it requires constant attention. Absolutely. Even more than the food.
Yes. Yes. Which leads me to, as we have a few minutes left in this call, one of the things that you said is that because this is not something that worries you anymore, it frees you. And I just want to talk about what your next step was after you got free from food. What did that free you up to do?
I wanted to write a book about tennis doubles, and it's a book I'd started 3 years before and never finished. And I'd started other books and never finished them. And I actually asked you to help me. We did another set of sessions once a month to keep me on track to make sure that happened. And I spent a year writing a book that turned out amazing. And it's propelled me in a direction I never expected to go in, which is putting myself out into the wider world. And now I'm selling the book. And it turned out that the book turned out so beautifully. At first, I thought it was maybe just for my students, but it turned out so great. I'm like, this deserves to be in the world. I think this is the best tennis doubles tennis book out there for a certain level of player. And boy, putting myself out there in the world has certainly been challenging. It continues to be challenging, and it's fun. And I actually have a book marketing coach, Dr. Deb.
It's awesome. It's so good because I think you understand the value of a coach.
Oh, totally.
And, like I think about when we were doing our work together, and part of the work that I do with all of my clients is that once you get rid of all the concentration that you have on your worry and your connection with food, when all of that goes away, it frees you up to live the rest of your life, which is really what I hear from you, is to put yourself out there because you have all of this energy now.
I do. I do. And I feel I do. I have more energy. You know, after I finished the book, of course, the book marketing is ongoing. It's a long game, but I decided I wanted to play again and compete. And I had the thought, well, I don't have time to work out. I won't play too much. And then my team won our season, and I was going to have to play 5 matches in 2.5 days. And I thought, that was in August. It was the end of June. I thought, I need to work out. And it turns out I love working out and I have the time. I make it a priority. And so my body has actually continues to transform. I'm fitter than when I played Division 1 college tennis. I really am.
And how old are you?
58.
58. And so basically what you're saying to me, and you could tell me where I'm wrong, but it sounds to me like the second half of your life that you're creating is even better than the first half.
I could say yes, but I don't even want to compare. I mean, the first half was amazing in its own way, but I certainly had the angst that I never really got my career down. Like I became a massage therapist, but that didn't really work. And before that, I was a sociologist. That didn't really work. I now feel like I really love what I'm doing, and I don't know where it's going to go, but I feel like it's absolutely what I'm meant to be doing.
It's just so lovely. And I guess what I mean more than anything I don't know if it's creating the best half of your life, but I think a lot of people, when they come to me, believe that somehow it's not going to be that way, that it's going to be. And I think what you're showing us and what I try to help everybody do is to realize that it's just really beginning.
As I said, I'm so happy. And in my letter, I said to you, I got to admit, I feel pretty great.
Yeah.
I feel fantastic. I dug out that before picture to send to you to contrast to a picture I took recently. And it's not just the weight, it's the energy and the joy and the vitality that I feel.
It's so much more than the weight, right? From the beginning. It's so much more than just the weight, isn't it?
It is, and yet it's such a big piece of the puzzle to get worked out. And then everything opens up.
I love that because what we're talking about, the big piece of the puzzle, is your mind.
It is. And, I want to mention this, that when we were working with the model, I never really got it. Like, I could do the CT FAR and, sort of follow it. But it wasn't until after I finished working with you, maybe in the past year, that the model became clearer and clearer and clearer. And now I pretty much notice thoughts that are going to bring me down. Yeah. And I can think a thought and feel the feeling like instantaneously.
Wow. And and what that goes to say, which I think is really good for everybody that has worked with me before, who has never worked with me before, is that the work that I teach you is ongoing because your mind keeps blossoming.
Oh yeah. It is a lifetime practice, that's for sure. But it's fun. It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, all I have to say is that it's one of the most beautiful things of my day today is talking to you and hearing how well everything is going for you way after we've been working together. And I think like my last question to you is this is, are you free from food?
I'm free. I'm free from food, from drinking. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the other thing is because you're free from food and you've created this beautiful book and like almost like a different kind of a life, I really would love for you to share the name of your book, where people could get it, anybody that plays tennis. It's like this is your baby and I want to share it with everybody that's listening to this podcast. Cuz can you tell us?
Oh, of course. It's the book's name is On the Ball: Doubles Tennis Tactics for Recreational Players. And it's available on Amazon. But I have a website now, which is www.ontheballbook.com. And my email address is the same, ontheballbook@gmail.com. And I do a newsletter every 2 weeks, and it's like a good newsletter. It's about tennis, but even if you don't play tennis, it's fun because it's positive. And I feature different people whose lives have been changed by tennis and the like. Like you could subscribe to my newsletter, and then you'd hear from me twice a month.
Absolutely. And so, like anybody that's listening to you now can see that it's going to be positive and you're probably going to learn something.
And even sometimes you do an interview with someone, and I'm like, wow, I'd like to talk with them. I'd like to connect. So if anyone just wants to connect, shoot me an email on theballbook@gmail.com, and we're all in the same boat.
That's so true. And listen, it was such an honor to talk to you today. I'm so proud of you and keep on putting your great work out there. Thank you, Gyata.
Thank you, Dr. Deb.
Well, I don't know what you think about that, but Gyata was an amazing client to work with. And listening to her now, my heart swells for her. And she wrote me a letter. I told you, before we had decided to do this podcast, which she gave me the idea to do this podcast. And I really want to read you a few tidbits about what she wrote in this letter in case we didn't come across it when I was interviewing her. So what she said in her letter was, "Hi, Dr. Deb. It's been a year and a half since I finished coaching with you. Currently, I'm holding steady at my ideal weight, even as I get stronger and fitter through working out. I had no idea I could feel and look this great even after menopause. As we always say, it's really not about the weight. I continue to appreciate the work that we did together and see how it helped propel me to where I am now. I am also enjoying the ongoing contact of hearing your weekly episodes. It's always interesting about the model, and my takeaway from our sessions was that I didn't get as much out of the model. But some of the big learnings back then were doing what I said I was going to do, understanding urges, planning my joy eats, keeping food journals, realizing that drinking never makes me feel better, and getting it that I don't have to eat to please other people." And I'm going to interject that in this right now because I think it's really important that you understand this about what Gyata just said about what she got out of these sessions that she kept doing. She said that some of her big learnings back then were doing what I said I was going to do, understanding urges, planning my joy eats, keeping food journals, and realizing that drinking never makes me feel better, and getting it that I don't have to eat to please other people. Because I will tell you that she was a big people pleaser in the beginning, and a lot of the eating she did was for that reason. So she also says to me at the end, she says, "I'd love to be on your podcast again to share about life after coaching. I think that your listeners would be interested to hear how the work, which can be so life-changing immediately, actually does last. And also to hear that I still slip up on occasion." So you already heard the interview, but I just wanted you to hear that letter that she wrote because just in case you didn't hear it in the interview. So you guys, it's January. It's a new year. If what Gyata is saying resonates with you, then please go to drdebbutler.com work with me, and you can set up a mini session and create a new year just like Gyata did. And listen, not only did she lose the weight, she wrote a book. I wonder what's up for you. I wonder what's inside of you that wants to come out. If you really want to find out, go to drdebbutler.com /work with me. And you know what I always say when I end this? Gyata said it, and I'm saying it, and I'll never say it enough. No matter what else you do in this new year, or on this day, or in this week, please, please, please be very, very kind to yourself, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
I would like to invite you to correspond with Dr. Deborah. Go to iTunes, drdebbutler.com /iTunes. And you can review the show, and you can even give some helpful suggestions on what you would like to talk about in the future to accomplish your mindfulness and your journey into mindfulness. Thank you.